After a season of football that saw the success of many teams who are historically underperformers, fans were surprised when the championship games ended with familiar results. The Kansas City Chiefs topped the AFC, beating the Buffalo Bills in an incredibly close game, and the Philadelphia Eagles defeated the Washington Commanders in a rout over in the NFC. Tessa Bennett breaks down the championship games and what's to come. Good evening, Tessa.
Good evening, Manisa. It might not be the result many hoped for after an exciting season of football, as the Kansas City Chiefs are set to do something that has never been done in the history of the NFL.
Can Mahomes do it? Got the P-Ryan. P-Ryan makes the move around Bernard, and that will clinch it.
Football fans might be feeling a bit of deja vu come February 9th as the Kansas City Chiefs are set to take on the Philadelphia Eagles in Super Bowl 59. The Chiefs are now just one game away from an unprecedented NFL three-peat in the Super Bowl, where they'll face off against the Eagles in a repeat of the big game from just 2 years ago. After a back-and-forth game, the Chiefs outlasted the Buffalo Bills Sunday night in the AFC Championship in a hard-fought 32-29 win.
That's a great football team we played. But at the end of the day, I trusted my teammates versus anybody.
This marks the 5th time in 6 years the Chiefs reached the championship game, and they now have the chance to achieve a feat no other NFL franchise ever has: 3 consecutive Super Bowl titles.
I think there's this sense that the Chiefs are this kind of overwhelming leviathan in the NFL, and I think a three-peat would really kind of cement that characterization, that they're more of a force of nature than they are a football team.
But it wasn't a cakewalk for the #1 seed Chiefs as they took on one of the only teams to beat them in the regular season. Buffalo quarterback Josh Allen and his team held their own against the Chiefs for most of the game, but ultimately it was all for naught, losing their 4th consecutive postseason matchup after 2 memorable 4th down failures.
To beat the champs, you had to beat the champs, and we didn't do it tonight.
This game had 6 4th down attempts from the Bills, which was the second most in NFL playoff history. And, you know, obviously most of them were failures. And I think a lot of them were a product, not of the decision to go for it on 4th down, but the way they went about it.
In the NFC, the Eagles had a definitive win over the Washington Commanders in a game that was marred by costly turnovers. The Eagles finished the game with a whopping 55 points, the most scored by any team in a conference championship since the NFL merger in 1970.
You know, we can talk about all of the individual players that we want. It all boils down to having perhaps one of the best offensive line coaches we've ever seen in Jeff Stoutland, who has been able to develop some of these guys, some of them who haven't even played along the offensive line.
Eagles running back Saquon Barkley scored a 60-yard touchdown run on the team's first drive of the game, adding 2 other rushing scores to an impressive night. His 3 TDs could only be matched by quarterback Jalen Hurts, who rushed for 3 of his own, leading the team to victory. But many on the internet are not exactly pleased about the Chiefs and Eagles returning to the Super Bowl again. A common theme being how much people seem to dislike both teams, with a certain quote from the San Francisco 49ers player Christian McCaffrey making the rounds. There's also a general fatigue some football fans have from watching the Chiefs succeed, with many wanting to see teams who put in the work in the regular season but didn't perform as well in the postseason, like the Minnesota Vikings.
We had this year, I think, more access to some of these unique narratives that we can craft and build and cheer for and enjoy that just got kind of stomped up.
The final showdown is just 2 weeks away, and while the Chiefs are favored, another Super Bowl MVP might not be in the bag for Mahomes.
I think looking at the 2 teams, that the Chiefs are the better machine, both offensively and defensively.
There's a possibility that the Super Bowl MVP actually comes from the losing team. It could be Saquon Barkley, because I think that there's a possibility he could go for 200+ yards and have the kind of performance where you have to say, gotta give it to him.
The Super Bowl kicks off at Caesars Superdome in New Orleans on February 9th and will feature halftime performances from Kendrick Lamar and SZA.